Hello and welcome to DSR's Words Matter. I'm David Rothkopf and I'm joined, as always, by the man you want to hear from, Norm Ornstein. It's the middle of the summer, Norm. Congress is done for probably the next 18 months. Um, but do I have that wrong? Do you expect them to do anything in the next? But I mean,
Well, let me give
they'll
you the
scrape.
caveat, David. I mean, one thing they have done, they took one thing off the table in their. I still gag and throw up a little in my mouth every time I use the phrase "one big beautiful bill." But they took the debt ceiling off the table by showing how fiscally conservative they are and raising the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. So they don't have to confront that in the fall, but they are going to have to confront the next year's spending bills by October 1 when the new fiscal year begins. And they're not going to have an easy time doing that unless Democrats, as the Senate under Chuck Schumer did, bail them out again by letting them cobble together their own spending bills without Democrats and, basically cave. The other thing is the Senate still has to vote on this so called rescission package. Now, what's that? Trump unilaterally cut out funding for PEPFAR, the greatest accomplishment of George Bush's presidency, which means cutting out funding for AIDS drugs, which has already meant many, many thousands of unnecessary deaths. And he unilaterally cut out funding for public broadcasting, among other things. This was illegal. These had been appropriated funds. So he eventually, yielding to what Congress wanted, turned that into a so called rescission package. I won't go into all of the wonky details, but uh, before 1974, um, presidents had limited authority to just decide not to spend money that had been appropriated, usually good reasons, and often they would delay for a while and then put the money back in. Richard Nixon turned it into a political tool to take away funding he didn't like. Congress passed a budget act called the Budget and Impoundment Control Act. Impounding money means you're not going to spend it, period. Rescission means that you're going to delay spending it, but it can also mean that you're impounding it. Trump impounded funds illegally. He's turned it into a package, and under the rules, if they don't act within a certain period of time, the spending has to go into effect. Congress can vote and decide whether to agree or block it. And the Senate has not taken this up yet. I go into this detail because we're seeing a couple of interesting dynamics here. One is in the aftermath of the flood in Texas, and that's something we may want to talk about a little bit more. But we learned yet again that rural areas that are a little more remote, often the only communication tool they have to learn about pending disasters is through public media, public radio, for example. So Trump wants to blow all of that up. And among other things, Dan Sullivan, the senator from Alaska, who's up this next time, said, we can't do that. We have remote areas in Alaska that need Alaskan public radio. And Susan Collins, the perpetual, oh, I have misgivings senator, said, I don't want to vote to remove funding for PEPFAR. We have other senators who've indicated some disagreement. And then we have Cornpone John Kennedy, who I swear must wake up every morning wondering how he can soil himself even more in the coming day, saying, what kind of wusses are you? This is a measly $9 billion. If we can't do that, what are we here for? So take away emergency communications from rural areas, including in Louisiana. Take away drugs from kids who are going to die of AIDS. That's John Kennedy. But let's face it, far more Republicans are with John Kennedy than they are with these others. And who knows if these others will raise their concerns and then end up voting for this package. So I went into this lengthy and long winded discussion in response to your simple question. They're done, aren't they? No, they're not.
Well, let's break that down, shall we? By done, by done, I mean that they're not likely to accomplish much. Um, on the spending packages, isn't the tradition in this era of Congress just to come up with continuing resolutions because they can't come up with actual spending packages?
Yes, it is, but let's keep in mind that that still would have to overcome a 60 vote hurdle in the Senate. And those spending packages are still going to relate to appropriations that most Democrats find are anathema. So there's still a set of questions here. And it becomes a question of whether Democrats are willing to use Republican malfeasance to allow a government shutdown, or whether they will, as Schumer and his colleagues did this last time, blink, believing that they'll lose in the event of a shutdown, that Trump and the Republicans' win machine will blame it on them. So it's not a done deal.
There's another thing that you said, which I found really quaint. And I'd just like to zero in on that because you were talking
I am
about how
quite.
Trump illegally rescinded or cut the spending. He does stuff illegally all the time. He extended the TikTok deadline illegally, has done it over and over again. He, I mean, he's imposing tariffs on countries around the world for no reason. Most recently with Brazil, a country, by the way, that we have a surplus with. We're not. We don't even have a trade deficit with Brazil because of political reasons. That's illegal. Um, he, it doesn't seem like the courts or the Congress really cares whether what he is doing is legal. I mean, aren't you just old fashioned here and talking about legal, illegal? If the president does it, it's okay, right?
That's certainly not only his view, but the view of six justices on the Supreme Court, um, which we could get to a little bit later, perhaps. It's true that if we just listed all of the illegal acts or actions taken by Donald Trump, there goes our whole hour, maybe several of our podcasts. And it is absolutely the case that Republicans in Congress, House and Senate, do not raise a single baby toe or little finger in objection to Trump's illegal actions, including those that stomp all over their own prerogatives. And it's, while it's the caveat here is many judges at the district and appeals court level, including lots of Republican nominated judges, including many Trump judges, have raised objections to his illegal acts. We saw yet another one as we have right before we taped today, where a judge with a class action suit brought blocked Trump again from violating the Constitution on birthright citizenship. But most of these matters go to the Supreme Court, and there Trump has, in effect, with very rare exceptions, six lickspittles.
Um, yeah,
Let me add,
what?
David, let me just add, we also have the press corps, which, when he says things or does things that are illegal, shrugs.
Yeah. Well, the press corps is just completely folding. We have another guy who quit the Washington Post today because he wasn't allowed to say anything critical in a column about about Trump. And we have the publisher of the Washington Post, saying, if you don't like our policies here, maybe you ought to work someplace else. And you have CBS and ABC cutting deals with the Trump, in order to, to take care of their corporate business. In the CBS deal, that what they did was they agreed to send money to Trump's presidential library, which is just a big slush fund. So the CBS, ABC, the Washington Post, Los Angeles Times got co-opted. Obviously, X got co-opted, and all of this kind of thing. CNN is, playing both sides of the fence. I, I mean, I got to tell you something. I just, we're talking about other stuff, but this struck me yesterday. If you had told me 20 years ago that all of those organizations would have their credibility gone effectively, I would have said you're crazy. This is the foundations of American democracy. And legacy media in the United States, almost without exception,